Hello, this is Ms. McCauley, and this is part 2 to how to convert measurements using ratios. Hi, everybody. Today we're going to talk about changing customary units or different measurement conversions, and using a ratio and equivalent ratios can make this a lot easier. So let's just walk through a few examples. Okay, this is from our old textbook, but it all still applies. The table shows the approximate weights in tons of several large land animals. 1 ton is equivalent to 2,000 pounds. That's a standard measurement conversion that we should kind of know, is that 1 ton always equals 2,000 pounds. You can use a ratio table, which has columns filled with ratios that have the same value to convert each weight from tons to pounds. So complete this ratio table. The first two ratios are done for you. So you can see that 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. 4 tons is 8,000 pounds. Well, what about 5 and what about 8? In order to do that, we should make equivalent ratios and try to figure it out. So if I know that 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds, it's always important when we're doing measurement conversions to put the labels on so that you can keep things straight. Then you would write an equivalent ratio over here. We know 5 tons. That was already told to us in the table. This is what we don't know. We have a question mark here. We're not sure. So we can do equivalent ratios or even like percent proportion here to try to figure this out. We can do our cross products, or we can simply just do equivalent ratios. 1 times 5 equals 5, obviously. 2,000 times 5 is 10,000. So you know that, whoops, sorry about that, I made that kind of big. This should equal 10,000. What about 8? Let's go ahead and figure it out. If 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds, how much will 8 tons equal? All we have to do is multiply by 8. 2,000 times 8 is going to be 16,000. Okay, so this would be 16,000. Okay, that's as easy as this is. It's not hard at all. As long as you know your basic conversion, in this case, 1 ton to 2,000 pounds. Okay, the relationship among the most commonly used customary units of length, weight, and capacity are shown in the table below. This table, let me just kind of scroll here so you can see, this is really important. You probably want to copy and paste this or take a picture of it and store this in your GoodNotes so that you can remember it for problems, okay? You can see here that 1 foot is 12 inches, 1 yard is 3 feet, 1 mile is 5,280 feet, 1 pound is 16 ounces, 1 ton is 2,000 pounds, 1 cup is 8 ounces, 1 pint is 2 cups, 1 quart is 2 pints, and 1 gallon is 4 quarts. Those are all things that are important. During this unit, you can use this chart to help you with problems. Okay? Let's go ahead and go to page 2. Each of the relationships above can be written as a unit ratio. Like a unit rate, a unit ratio is one in which the denominator is 1 unit. So for example, we know that 3 feet is 1 yard, 2,000 pounds is 1 ton, 4 quarts is 1 gallon. Notice that the numerator and denominator of each fraction above are equivalent, so the value of each ratio is 1. You can multiply it by a unit ratio of this type to convert or change from larger units to smaller units. So let's kind of look and see how this would work. Convert 20 feet into inches. Since 1 foot equals 12 inches, the unit ratio is 12 inches to 1 foot. Okay? So we would multiply by 12 inches. So we would do this. Okay, 20 feet equals 20 feet times 12 inches over 1 foot. Okay, we can cross out our common units, okay, which are the feet right here. So you can kind of cross those out, okay, and then do 20 times 12, which equals 240 inches. Okay, so therefore 20 feet equals 240 inches. That's another way to do this, okay? Let's try another one. Okay, Clarence mixes 1/4 a cup of fertilizer with soil before planting each bulb. How many ounces of fertilizer does he use per bulb? Okay, so in this case, we need to know how many ounces there are in a cup. From our table, we know that 8 ounces are in 1 cup. So we would say 1/4 cup equals 1/4 cup times our unit ratio of 8 ounces in 1 cup. Okay, we would divide out our common units, which is cups. Okay, and then we have 1/4 times 8, which equals, if we multiply this out, multiplying fractions, which we all know, 1, 2, cross multiply, we get 2 ounces is 1/4 of a cup. Okay, pretty easy, right? Let's try another one here. Let's try this one. 36 yards equals how many feet? Okay, well, let's do that. 36 yards times, how many yards are there in a foot? Okay, or how many feet are there in 1 yard? There are 3 feet in 1 yard. That's our unit measurement, or our unit conversion ratio. So we would cross out our yards because those are our common unit, and then we would multiply 36 times 3, okay, which equals 108 feet. 108 feet in 36 yards. That's pretty easy, right? That's when we convert larger units to smaller. So our answer should always be larger because there's more of them. Let's try an example down here. To convert from smaller units to larger units, multiply by the reciprocal of the appropriate unit ratio. Convert 15 quarts into gallons. Since 1 gallon equals 4 quarts, the unit ratio is 4 quarts to 1 gallon, and the reciprocal is 1 gallon to 4 quarts. Just like flipping fractions, it's the same thing. So you would multiply by 1 gallon over 4 quarts. So you would see that it would be like this. Let me write this out. So you would have 15 quarts, 15 quarts times 1 gallon to 4 quarts. Okay, so now we can cross out those common units again, right? Okay, and then we would multiply straight across, and we would get 15 over 4, which then we would divide, and we would get 3.75 gallons. So 15 quarts equals 3.75 gallons. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and go to the next page. Okay, let's do a couple more here. Yumika needs 4.5 feet of fabric to make a costume for a play. How many yards of fabric does she need? Feet are smaller than yards, so we're converting from smaller to larger again. So let's write this out. 4.5 feet equals 4.5 feet times 1 yard to 3 feet. That's our unit ratio, the reciprocal of our unit ratio. 1 yard to 3 feet. We would cross out our common units, okay, and we end up with 4.5. Let's change that to an improper fraction. 9 halves times 1/3. Cross simplify here, and we end up with 3 halves, or 1.5 yards. Okay, that's another way to do it. Okay, I'm going to show you actually another way that I think is somewhat easier than doing this unit ratio multiplying is I like setting up proportions. And since you know proportions, I think it's easier. So the first thing you want to do is set up your proportion that you know to be true, like the feet to miles. We know that 1 mile equals 5,280 feet, okay? That's the conversion or the standard conversion that you would get from the chart that we have. Okay, so now that's our standard conversion. I'm going to label it. And then we have 2,640 feet. Always make your two units the same. So if you have feet on the bottom, they both have to be feet on the bottom. Miles on top, miles on top. We do not know this piece right here. We don't know how many miles there are in 2,640 feet, but what we can do is cross products are equal, like we learned with proportions. Okay, we know that 1 times 2,640 must equal 5,280 times question mark. Okay, so then all we have to do is divide to get the question mark by itself. So 2,640 divided by 5,280, okay, that will equal 1/2. So 2,640 is 1/2 of a mile. That's another way to do this. Okay, so you have choices here. So let's try this one, pints to quarts. I have to look back at my chart to see the conversion for pints to quarts because I always forget this. 1 quart is 2 pints. Okay, so let's write down 1 quart is the same as 2 pints. Let's set up our equivalent ratio. We know the pints, so 5 pints, and we don't know the quarts here, so what we can do is cross multiply. 1 times 5 equals 2 times question mark. Okay, 5 equals 2 question mark, and you know multiplication equations, the way you solve them is divide. So 5 divided by 2, which equals 2.5. So 5 pints equals 2.5 quarts. I personally find that easier. Okay, but you are certainly welcome to use the unit ratios or the proportions, whatever you prefer. Please make sure to answer the Part 2 note check now that you've completed Part 2. Then you will watch the Part 3.